Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do something that I have not seen anyone cover on YouTube before. We're going to look at strategy for e-commerce with tangible examples. So this is purely from an e-commerce perspective where I'll explain things using plenty of examples throughout the video to keep it both practical and understandable. All of these examples are ones that you're also able to study further if you'd like to do so. So first of all, let's start with what strategy actually is and what it isn't. So a strategy itself is a comprehensive plan that outlines exactly how your store will achieve its goals and differentiate itself from the competitors. So pretty simple in theory, not so easy to do in practice. If you think about it, there's millions of Shopify stores and guaranteed that there's plenty of similar stores in your niche competing for those lovely ad impressions. Now here, a strategy is not a random isolated tactic. It's not something that you implement with a short-term focus for immediate gains. It's something that is really long-term and you'll see some examples soon. Strategy is also not blindly copying competitors and it's not something static that doesn't ever change. So it's a fluid thing and it generally is based on outsmarting your competitors rather than going full on into a battle. I myself have helped e-commerce stores solve these issues for years. I'm an e-commerce specialist, mostly helping seven-figure brands grow and prosper with conversion optimization. And this YouTube channel is my passion project where I help you guys by sharing many of the insights that I've learned over the years. Now, let's divide these strategy options into its further components. So first of all, we have the offensive strategy. And that's something that we're going to talk about today because that's the more easily available for you as a small merchant. So companies pursuing offensive strategies are directly targeting an established competition where they are attacking that market share. And typically these companies have some kind of an edge that the market doesn't, and the market tends to be quite stagnant or similar over a long period of time. So there is this established default that you are able to attack. And then you have the defensive strategies. So in contrast, defensive strategies are used to discourage or turn back an offensive strategy on the competitor's part. So essentially there needs to be an offensive strategy implemented in order for the defensive strategy to even be a possibility. So no defense can exist without offense. In this video, we'll cover the offensive strategies. If you'd like more of this kind of stuff, subscribe to the channel and let me know by liking the video. Now, the strategies themselves. First, we have a full frontal attack. This is where you have a very small differentiation between the companies. So for example, you can think of Coke versus Pepsi. Both of them are very similar as products. However, there's also this very famous Coke and Pepsi war where they are essentially going after each other. So when Pepsi introduced Diet Pepsi, Coke introduced Diet Coke. So that's a lot of following there. Similarly, we can look at, say, Walmart versus Amazon from an e-commerce perspective. Here we have a lot of price matching behavior. We have Walmart trying to catch up on Amazon on the shipping rates. So you have 2-day shipping from Walmart and that's to tackle Amazon Prime. And then you also have Walmart Marketplace. So a lot of similarities there once you start looking into it. But the exact example I'd like to cover further is more tangible for you guys. So here we have Dollar Shave Club versus Gillette. Now, the scenario is that Dollar Shave Club is a small startup, but they were able to take on Gillette, the dominant player in the razor industry, by using a set of tactics to differentiate. So first of all, they had a subscription model, and this is where they were offering razors and grooming products through a subscription service. If you think Gillette, they're traditionally sold in brick and mortar stores. And here, subscription can be more convenient and often also cheaper than the delivery model that Gillette was using, where you have a store and you buy those products in store when you need them. Then Gillette itself is a very established brand, so they are not able to go to certain places with their marketing. So Dollar Shave Club was using this kind of viral, humorous videos to attract a younger audience and differentiate differentiate from the traditional marketing that Gillette was doing. And lastly, you have the low prices. So if you're able to provide high quality razors at a fraction of the cost of Gillette's products, and there's not seemingly any kind of difference there, then it's an easy proposition for people to get behind. So essentially, you have a seemingly similar product with a couple of different twists, and you're able to go to a full frontal attack. So that's the first strategy out of the 4. Next, we have the flank attack. This is where you have a challenger, say you as a smaller Shopify merchant, and you want to attack the weak points or the blind spots of the established players. Now, you'd typically be attacking the leadership position because the leader is known and that's the established position. Here, one brand that did this really well and still does it is Allbirds. And Allbirds is of course a shoe retailer that is going after or against traditional footwear brands. So we have Allbirds, a smaller footwear brand that competes with established giants like Nike or Adidas. And what they did is that they noticed that they could take the angle of sustainability and comfort. And these are areas where these traditional brands were less focused. They were more focused on efficient supply chains, getting it to the consumer fairly cost consciously, and then just style and image. Whereas Allbirds, sustainable, comfortable. So there's enough differentiation there. Talk to some buyers that are not as valued or don't value the established brands and their assets so much. So Allbirds tactics, sustainability. They were focusing on these eco-friendly materials and the sustainable production processes. And this is of course an area where traditional competitors were less focused. So there was market share to take there. Then comfort and simplicity. So emphasizing the simple and comfortable designs over the performance or the fashion designs. And lastly, you have the direct-to-consumer model. Of course, the traditional brands, they also sell on brick and mortar. Nike tried this direct-to-consumer sale model, but it's difficult to adjust to it, as we'll see on strategy 4. So if you avoid traditional retail channels, you'll be able to offer often more competitive prices, and then of course also control the customer experience. Now that's example 1. Example 2 is one that I think most people can also relate to, because we all know the traditional luggage brands like Samsonite. So I'm going to talk about Away. Away is a direct-to-consumer luggage company that has been able to compete with these established brands that everyone knows, because they noticed that Samsonite, for example, was not really that hip or techy as a brand. So what Away was able to do is introduce some modern features. So they added, say, USB chargers and used more lightweight traditional materials. So basically Samsonite, etc., weren't able to really change it to this level. They also started to appeal into a younger customer, so targeting those younger, more tech-savvy travelers through different stylish designs and then also savvy social media marketing. So you have an angle that is in a way built to go viral, because it is something that will stop you from scrolling your Instagram feed. And lastly, you have the direct-to-consumer model as well. So you'll be able to often be a little bit more efficient, selling only on one single channel. All right, so those are the first 2 strategies. The strategy number 3 is differentiating. So these are quite related actually with flank attack and differentiating, but it's still quite different, because differentiation is about making the product or service stand out from the competition by offering some kind of unique features, benefits, or branding. Whereas the flanking that we just covered is about targeting the weak points or the overlooked areas of the competitor, and especially targeting those dominant players. So the goal here is to essentially exploit vulnerabilities to gain market share by being able to be something that the competitors aren't. Now, when it comes to differentiation, I like the example of Casper. So with Casper mattresses, you have innovative product design. So you have this high quality mattress that you can just take out of the box. It simplifies the delivery, simplifies the setup, and then you will be able to have a more holistic experience by having a unified Casper experience with pillows, beddings, sleep accessories that are available to you for easy online experience and purchase later on as well. Then another example I like a lot is Zappos. So Zappos is a shoe retailer. How they differentiated from others was with their exceptional customer service. So they had this delivery policy of 365-day free shipping returns. And this is something that was standing out. And once you have something like this, it's very difficult for a big brand to again do it. Another differentiating factor was the customer-centric company culture. So they had it all around their branding. So that's something that a small player would be able to do. It's harder for a big player to do. And then lastly, the personalization part. So since you're a shoe retailer, that's the only thing you can do. You can really focus on how to use that customer data to personalize the shopping experience and to recommend the right kind of products for your customers. And lastly, we have my personal favorite, which is counter positioning. This is where you adopt a strategy that fundamentally contrasts the established approach so much that the established store cannot adapt to it without abandoning its own strategy. A good example of this is Everlane. So Everlane went against fast fashion brands, and here they're taking on brands like H&M, Zara, etc. by counter positioning themselves against these fashion giants. Now, once they did that, they couldn't of course be low cost. They cannot be fast fashion. They cannot bring a new line out every 2 weeks, etc. So you have to commit to the strategy. But here they had radical transparency that they emphasized continuously and shared it with everything that they did. Cost of materials, labor, transportation, factory details, the whole shebang. And then you had the focus with quantity versus quality. So focusing on high quality, timeless pieces rather than this fast changing fashion trend focus. And then, of course, you have the last differentiating factor, which is the ethical production. So highlighting that ethical supply chain, the production practices, sustainable materials, and trying to appeal to that environmentally and socially conscious consumer by doing that. Now, the second example I like is MVMT watches versus the traditional watch brands. Here, in this scenario, MVMT was able to counter-position itself against these established watch brands like Rolex or Fossil, which are often associated with these higher prices and luxury retail experience. So essentially, you pay for the retail experience. But with MVMT, you are able to get what's called affordable luxury. So they still have stylish, high-quality watches, but they have it at an accessible price, and they are able to do so by eliminating these retail markups and selling directly to consumers. Rolex will never be a brand that sells directly to consumers, only through their online store. Then another thing that they did was focusing a bit more on the modern minimalist design that appeals to, again, younger, fashion-conscious demographic. And they're able to do that because they don't have this market that they would otherwise turn down. So if Rolex, for example, goes for a younger, fashion-conscious demographic, they're going to turn off many of their buyers. Lastly, you have the origins of MVMT, which is the crowdfunding. So they were able to leverage crowdfunding platforms to validate these concepts quickly and build that initial customer base. So this contrasts, of course, with the high investment required by traditional brands. And by doing it with crowdfunding, MVMT was able to rapidly explore whether these watches were going to sell or not. So that's the basics of e-commerce strategy and a few different paths that you can take. And while you can see that there's these unique categories, they're not completely mutually exclusive. There are elements of each in each. And here it's important to not to be too fundamental about it either. Now, if you're already having success with your store and you are interested in possibly working together with us at Grow Gurus to do CRO for your store, you can book a call with me from the description, and I look forward to having a chat with you. If not, make sure to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the future ones. Thanks.